Do you want us to start? Okay.
Hello.
So, ladies and gentlemen, friends, I'd like to introduce you to Teoni.
Hello, 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 hello.
I'm Kobi from Fynn Studio. As an art curator, I get many benefits in my job, but one of the best things, and one of the reasons why I do it, is so that I can get invited to artist studios and to meet some incredible artists. I've been following one incredible artist since February. Her name's Teoni, and because I'm a man of a certain age and because she's a woman of a certain age, I've never actually reached out to her saying, hey, can I come to your studio? So when Tate reached out to me and said, who would you like to meet up with and have an art chat with, there was only one person on the list. And the reason why is because her talent is so incredible, her chat is even better, which we'll see in a bit. But it's such a pleasure, not just to be with you, but also to be with so many of your friends. So thank you from me, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Before we start, we need to do the social media stuff. You can find Teoni at @_Teoni. Her website's there as well, and our Fynn Studios Instagram is over there as well. Don't worry, you don't need to pick between us who you want to follow. This slide will come up again at the end. So I guess we should just start.
Yeah?
So if we're going to start, should we start at the very beginning?
Oh, yeah.
When were these images made?
So, I mean, I guess I've been making art all my life. I started drawing around in primary school. And these are various pieces I've done throughout GCSE and A-levels. When I was in year 7, that's when I started painting. So you kind of just, in school, they kind of just don't really explore your actual conceptual ideas. They tell you to just get the work done. So this is me experimenting with watercolors, biro, ink, charcoal, not really having any attachment to the subject matter, but still, I can still see myself having fun with going crazy with the pen, but yeah.
And from these early works, can you see the beginnings of where you are now as an artist?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you can see me investigating, I guess, myself, and
then this image over here, was that you working with watercolors or?
No, so that's actually acrylic. I mainly started painting with acrylic. That's actually my friend. I forced her to dress up and put a lot of makeup on her, took a picture, and yeah, done her portrait. I was trying to, highlight domestic abuse back then, because I wanted to be all, conceptual, but I don't think I executed it very well, but hey.
So it's a process of learning and picking up and trying things out when you're at that age?
Yeah, definitely.
And then is this a little bit more recently? Is this another friend that you put makeup on?
No. So that's actually my first ever oil painting. You can tell I've got no hairline. I look about 40 years old.
So this is you?
Yeah, I mean, I tried. I really did try. But I was just trying to understand the medium, and I wanted to be a serious artist and dabble in what oil paints can do and how I could convey a story with it.
So sometimes when we see portrait painters make portraits, we see them painting from photography or from themselves in a mirror. Were you painting from a mirror here?
I was painting from a selfie that I took in the mirror because I'm quite vain. So, yeah.
We said we won't call you vain.
Well, I do take a lot of selfies.
And then on the right-hand side here?
On the right-hand side here is actually my first ever life drawing in the life drawing room at uni. That day I was just wow, this is actually so much fun. I'm not working for a deadline.
So was this at school or?
Oh, that was at uni, first year uni.
And which university were you at?
Middlesex University.
Are there anyone from Middlesex University here?
Come on, rap it. Yeah.
And what was it like at Middlesex?
Middlesex was probably the best experience I've ever had. Like, I've met so many people, so many lovely people. The tutors, they helped me so much. But mainly, like, the people in my class. Like, I used to go out every day and just meet so many different characters and just spend all day outside just meeting and get to know people. And I think that's when I actually, like, fell in love with investigating other people's stories, because everyone had something to say and had a funny story to tell, or like a funny mannerism that we talk shit about behind them when we go back to class.
So from here to here, did you ever feel like you were beginning to embrace art because you were given the time and space with it?
Yeah. I mean, from going from like working to a strict brief and a deadline to working at my own pace and giving myself my own brief was actually probably like, I couldn't handle it. Like, it was so overwhelming. Like, what, you letting me do what I want? Like, what? Like, I wasn't, like, tell me what you need. Like, what? Should I paint a dog? Like, you know? It's so, from going to that was, yeah, it was a good experience.
Nice. And was there any kind of tutors that encouraged you going to exhibitions or anything?
Yeah, we had to go to, I guess a field trip. I don't know how to explain it, but every Tuesday. And I wasn't the best at attending them every Tuesday, I must admit. But I did go and explore the Tate, for example. And yeah.
And were there any shows or any artists that inspired you from that point?
That's when I actually discovered the artist Tracy Emin, when we went to her White Cube exhibition. And yeah, that day really opened my eyes into actually creating. No, actually, like, her work made me feel more comfortable with showing like raw moments. And
that was a show which also had a lot of selfies by her.
Yeah. So she done this like amazing installation where she took pictures of herself when she was feeling insomnia. And I take a lot of pictures of myself when I cry. I've got, like, I don't know, thousands of pictures of me just crying. And I hope one day to, like, kind of recreate that, because seeing someone in their most vulnerable, like, most vulnerable state, I don't know, it's just interesting to be able to be so comfortable to share that.
So it sounds like for you, your practice is also part of a process of therapy.
Yeah.
So working through things.
Mm-hmm.
And coming back to this, because we're being guided by images, this is another life drawing session?
Yeah, so this series was made, well, I had to paint for 7 minutes at a time and then change to the next painting. And I think I've done it like 4 times. So 7 minutes, 7 minutes, 7 minutes, 7 minutes, 7 minutes, 7 minutes, and this is the outcome. I mean, that was the first time I felt like, oh, raw, like, I can actually paint. It's not just, all up in my head, like, oh, I can actually create conceptual ideas and put them all together, and it makes sense. And, yeah.
And then, so another selfie. But, and then, would you say with a painting like this, you were spending 7 minutes, 7-minute chunks, or how long do you spend on your artwork?
I embarrassingly spent like a year or so on a piece, just because I always come to painting when I need to release, and not every time I need to release. But I like to take my time. Like, I like to just breathe with my paintings, eat with them, sleep with them, like everything. Like, I would go Tesco, get a meal deal, sit down, and it would just be me and my painting, like eating with each other. Because I just need that time to like meditate and step back, because I used to do a lot of hyper-realistic work, and I think it's quite boring for me to do it anyway. So I kind of have to train myself and take time to not overwork things, because when you're sitting down next to a canvas and you're just like trying to paint an eye, I need to paint this eye. you kind of overblend, overwork it. So I spend the year just meditating on one piece, and then, yeah, and then I'll call it done.
Now, I've been watching you for a while, not that long, but I've been watching you for a while, and there's been various different hairstyles, and then there's been none. And the shaved head, when was that?
Shaved my head when I was 17. It was a bold move, but that was only because I think hair holds so much energy, and at the time, I needed to release an immense amount of energy. So I was just like, yeah, it's time to go.
And then we got to graduation, where that portrait of you sits as well. Mm-hmm. And then is it family members? Yeah.
So my dad, my mom, my auntie, myself, and a gallery of all pictures that I've grown up with, that I've seen so many times, that's like kind of ingrained in my head. So I just wanted to show people what like the gallery that you collect in your mind. So yeah, I just did that.
So there's a sense of family, a sense of home, a sense of, so we can see again you therapizing through your work, but also reflecting on your environment. And as a portrait painter, do you think, or do you paint your environment rather than things which you think you're directed to paint?
It's hard to say, but it's definitely more of my environment and like the people around me that influence, and just, I don't know, the people around me that allow me to, like, I guess, cry with them, because I am a crier. So.
And do you cry for joy or do you cry for sorrow?
I cry for joy, sorrow, everything in between. Sometimes I get really overwhelmed, so a good cry session, you just release it, wipe the tears, and go back to painting.
Well, it's interesting because I was listening to a Desert Island Discs with Tracy Emin earlier, and when she made her bed, which we're all so familiar with, there were some watercolors that she did, which hung in the background, which no one ever talks about, which we're not so familiar with. And she talks about how she was crying when she was making those. And very often, I'm cynical about the artist being this tortured person and tortured soul. But when I heard her saying those words, I can really hear something similar for you, which is this process of going through therapy and using the work and the practice as a way of creation.
Yeah.
So maybe you're telling me to be less cynical.
Maybe.
And then this is one of the first images, the first paintings of yours, which I fell in love with. And it's a painting of your dad with you?
Yeah, my dad and me.
And how did you create this image? Oh, no, I know how you created this image. But this is when I fell in love with you as an artist, if I'm allowed to say. Because in the work which we do, where not so many people like us have the privileges of being in a place like this, speaking like this, pretending as though we're speaking for the first time. What I fell in love with was that you shared the entire process of creating this image. So here we can see it hanging in your studio, and here we can see close-ups of your brushstrokes, and then almost this tight work which you're creating. But then, and I hope this works, what I loved was how you were able to show the process, but also the sense of community that comes about in the way in which you create work.
I'm definitely not a lone soldier. I'm very grateful that I have friends that can help me think through my ideas and give me advice and let me, do stuff like that. And if I didn't have, especially my friend Fatima, who's also a lovely, amazing artist, she really, we used to paint together all the time. And sometimes, which I probably shouldn't say, sometimes we look at each other and be like, do you want to switch? Do you want to switch paintings? Yeah, she paints a very dark color palette, and I'm very bright. So we'd like to challenge each other in completely different colors. And me working with grays and greens, I was like, how do you make this color? What's going on? And she'd be like, why do you use so much yellow? Yellow. But yeah, those were the best times, just being able to fully explore other things and people will be able to explore my work as well with me.
In years to come, you'll never take a phone call from me, and I hope your success is fantastic. But I hope what you do hold on to is that openness. Because we say we work in an art, or people tell us we work in an art world, but we actually work in an art industry.
Yeah.
And in this industry, unlike the fashion industry, where you can see documentaries about how Anna Wintour structures her magazines, no one ever shows. People talk about their process, artists talk about their process, but they rarely share their process. What I love is how open you are about your process, how you work in commune with other artists, how you're not a lone soldier. And I think that's something which we should hold on to in this industry called art, but also in the wider world. So thank you for being so honest. But then also, I love this close-up, this detail, because we see that you're painting from a photograph. And guys, whilst you're here this evening, there's an exhibition on at Tate Modern. We're not asked to promote these exhibitions, but there's an exhibition called Capturing the Moment. What I love is how you paint from moments which are captured, whether it's from when you were a child right through to present day. And what is it about painting rather than photography that touches your soul?
Painting allows me to really delve into creating that story rather than just capturing a quick glimpse. You asked me why don't I just only do photography, which photography is fun. It allows me to calm down and actually think about how I shoot, because I shoot film. But once I get the image, it's like, oh, wow, that moment was so beautiful. I really want to expand on it, expand on that feeling or how that moment made me feel, and see why I choose that specific moment or why that moment is holding on to me. So, yeah.
And in terms of influences of portrait painters or painters, is there anyone else that speaks to you? We mentioned Tracy.
Lucian Freud, I'm very heavily inspired by. Claudette Johnson, she inspired my self-portrait. Like, when I went to see her show in Hollywood, I was like, I need to get in the studio right now. I couldn't believe how someone can put so many colors and textures together, and it tells such a beautiful story without actually knowing any of these people. So, yeah, Claudette Johnson is definitely a big inspiration.
We're already at 20 past.
Oh, damn.
And so here we are with your father embracing you. And then here we are with a new father embracing his child at 3 months old, photographed by another amazing creative, Fynn. And you said you once saw this in his living room?
Yeah, so when I first met Sloan and I got invited to his house, instantly when I saw that picture in his room, I was like, oh my God, this picture is amazing. Like,
So like Claudette Johnson drove you to the studio?
Yeah, this image really drove me to the studio.
And this is what happened?
Yeah, this is the outcome.
And then what else happened?
I mean, I guess, what do you mean? I don't know what you want me to say.
I mean, didn't you get fired as a result?
Oh, yeah. So, stupid me, I mean, obviously I wanted to work for Sloan, of course. I posted it on Instagram thinking it was going to be normal. I get a couple of likes from my friends, yeah. And then it kind of went semi-viral. And the next day I came to the studio, someone's like, you know you can't work for me, you know. I was like, what? He's like, you can't work for me anymore. I was like, no, please. But, yeah, so I kind of got sacked. But...
So you were his assistant at the time?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if everyone's familiar, but this guy here is a bit of a character. He's an artist. He's making a huge sculpture right now. He did the Brit Awards thing. He's becoming, well, for a lot of people in the creative industries, they're aware of him. So this is Sloan, who you were an assistant to. Yeah,
I was his personal assistant.
Then you got fired by.
Yeah, then he fired me.
You share a studio with him.
And now we share a studio.
And when people like Lil Sims turn up to buy artwork from him, they come and get your artwork too.
Yeah, like crazy. I don't even know, I wasn't there. I was just, taking my time, getting ready. And someone calls me, he's like, do you want Lil Sims to take your painting? I was like, what? He's like, do you want us to take it? Yes or no? Quick. I was like, yeah. And then he just hung up. And then, yeah, she said she really loved it. she fell in love with it and she just had to take it. And yeah.
So spending time with paintings, spending time on your art, going to exhibitions, getting inspiration, but also finding a really good studio mate if you can, is what we're learning here, yeah?
Yeah.
But then there's moments where you're feeling blocked and where creativity doesn't always flow.
Yeah, after, you know, a lot of people got to know me or wanted to see more of me, I just felt a lot of pressure of, oh my God, what am I gonna do next? So during that time, I was like, oh, rah, I'm not sick all the time. I'm not, you know, I do miss. I don't hit every time, so.
And is this you not hitting?
Yeah, I was not hitting. And everyone told me I was hitting. Everyone told me, no, it's going well. And I kept telling everyone, no, like, it's not going. So I instantly knew I needed to restart it, but the only reason why I kept going on is because everyone was lying to me.
And how did you resolve it?
Yeah, to resolve, I just went back to the basics, life drawing. I have to life draw, otherwise I get too in my head. Life drawing allows me to just quickly capture a moment, how I'm feeling in that exact moment.
So is that what's happening over here?
Yeah, so my friend, so lovely, she sat for 4 hours for me. And after I did that, I was like, oh, okay, like, I just needed to chill, get out of my own head and just be able to capture moments quickly. Yeah.
So people allow you to reconnect, reset, and get back on it. And here are some of the people. This is your environment.
Yeah.
And these are the people you paint. And I think very often in our fields, as a curator or as a painter, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, we very often get typecast or genreified, if you want to say.
Yeah. I'm not really into being put into a label because I'm turning 23 in 2 weeks, so I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. So for somebody else to then put a label on me, I'm like, well, hold up. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow.
You're just painting your environment.
Yeah, I'm just painting.
And here we're looking at an empty shop, restaurant front on Old, what's the street? Portland Street.
Great Portland Street, yeah.
So we go from this to becoming your canvas. There is a canvas. You were commissioned.
Yeah, so Stilo reached out to me and asked me to create an idea to go on Vapiano's storefront.
So from this to this, we go to, and we'll come back in a second, we go to this, which is incredible. What is it like to paint or to have your artwork that large in central London?
I mean, I haven't fully processed it. It's crazy. It's insane.
When did this go up?
This went up last Thursday.
So June's just been a killer month for you.
Yeah, June has been crazy.
And talk to me about the process. Did you started off with this image, they said they wanted, this is way different from the work we're seeing before, which is almost hyper-real.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing very gestural signifiers of movement and work. What's it like working at such a looser way?
I mean, I think I was really forced to work in a looser way because I only had 2 days to do it. So I literally spent the whole of Saturday doing it, slept at my studio when I shouldn't have slept there, woke up, done it again, saw these guys again. They were like, oh, yeah, wow, it's really come together.
They weren't lying this time.
Yeah, they weren't lying this time.
This boy, who I think is just amazing, how did you paint that? Did you find him in the restaurant or?
No, I actually just grabbed an image and I just went in.
You've spoken about influences, you've spoken about Claudette Johnson, someone who in years to come you'll get compared to as Lynette Yarden-Boakye. Similar to her, she paints from memory, she paints from emotion, she paints from found images as well. So you're not alone, Wolf, you're not alone, Soldier. But what I love is how simple and suggestive the strokes, the mark making is to create something which is, I went to see it last night actually. And it's just absolutely incredible. Seriously.
Thank you so much.
It's a bit weird watching you on Instagram and then watching you here and then meeting you for today. What's coming up?
So next, I think I can say, but I'm doing an exhibition with flannels. So
is that going to be on the outside? or inside?
I don't even know. I need to check my emails. But yeah, so 13th of July, please be available. You'll be able to see some new pieces I've been working on. And it's also going to be my birthday. So come celebrate my 23rd year of life with me. And next I'll be doing workshops at Bobo's. With Sloan, we're going to hold some live drawing sessions together. So it'll be really cool if everyone can come down and just vibe. Yeah.
And what's happening in November?
And in November, I really can't say much, but honestly...
You put it up there.
I know, because I overshare so much, but November, you guys are going to scream. You guys are going to scream, honestly.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is us. And are there any questions?
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hey.
Please, ask questions, now.
When painting, do you attach yourself to... What do you attach yourself to? I know you mentioned that you paint from the moment, but are you trying to capture yourself feeling that picture or the moment, or how? Talk to me a little bit, please.
When I'm painting, it's hard to say. It's really so hard to say. See, I'm a fantasizer. I like to romanticize the littlest of things. So if a cute man comes up to me and says, hi, I'm like, oh my God, we're getting married tomorrow. Like, so in that kind of sense, just any little moment, like, I don't know, I see a mom holding her baby and she probably dropped something, and like the way she dropped it just made me feel, I don't know, some form of nostalgia.
So it's your own.
Yeah, it's kind of, I kind of paint what my inner child wanted to see when she was at that time. So I guess now that's probably why I paint a lot of people, because I didn't really feel the sense of community when, you know, back in the 2010s or whatever. Every man was just out for themselves back then, like really. So now it's just, yeah, I just want to paint community and hope.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing your photos, Teoni. They're really nice.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you were misfiring. Is that that's the term, when you painted something that didn't look quite as you wanted it to look?
Yeah, shit.
But I mean, what about, can you talk through the emotional process? Because obviously you said that you go back to doing the life drawings, but how do you must feel quite crestfallen, you know, if it's not sort of firing as you would like or hitting as you would like. How do you sort of get yourself motivated again?
It's so hard to find motivation in a space where I'm seeing like 10-second clips all the time. I'm addicted to just scrolling. And I'm now noticing my process and times where I feel overstimulated. I probably shouldn't paint because I just do faff. So yeah, life drawing. I don't know what it does for me. It just really allows me to just become a whole different, completely different person. I don't have to be Teoni for a 5-minute live drawing. I can just be an artist, actually just really trying to capture that specific moment. So when I do my big pieces, it's more pressure because it's like, oh, I need to layer this yellow on top of this green, and da-da-da-da. I try to be so overcomplicated about it because I feel like that's what people like. So that's probably the times where I make shit work, when I want other people to like it rather than myself.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi, Teoni.
Hello, Ali.
I wanted to ask, where do you see yourself, not in 10 years, but in like 5 years, truly?
Damn.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah, please.
I think, sorry, I know you're asking Teoni.
No, it's fine.
But I think if you keep on with the energy that you have, the talent that you have, the beauty which you've got inside you, it's limitless. I've come across enough artists that I know when they're not worth the time. But what I see within you is so special, and it's not because of a viral moment, but from the orange of a wall of your graduation project through to your love for your environment and your family, that's the kind of talent in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, which needs to go really, really far.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I think, unless there's one final question.
I think I saw a question over here.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
There's 2 more questions and then we get kicked
Yeah.
out, guys.
Sorry. I don't want to piss the Tate off.
You keep swearing, though.
Sorry.
Hi.
Hello.
I have a question. What would your advice be to like younger artists?
I'd say if you're really, really trying to do this, you need to start sharing your work. I know too many people that's just hoarding their work and expecting things to come. Literally post it, turn your phone off. Like, that's what I have to do. Like, these lot see the process of me going, oh my God, what should I do? Should I make it yellow? Should I make it black? Da, da, da. But literally, if you just post it, go out, go to the park, come back to it, you'll feel a lot less pressure in doing it. But please, please, post your work. And don't be humble with it. Just post it, honestly. And I know probably if you're not into the whole social media thing, and I don't really like it most of the times, but it's what's making me money right now, so I have to like it. Yeah, literally post.
And are you looking beyond social media? Are you ever looking to be with a gallery or an amazing curator?
Are you shooting your shot?
No.
Are you shooting your shot?
I told you I'm too old.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, definitely. Of course, I would love that.
And then our final question.
What's it like working with different times? Because you said you have 2 days in one piece and then you work for a year in another piece. So what is it like working with different time schedules?
I hate it so much. I hate working with different time schedules because I feel like it sometimes can stifle me, but in a good way. Because if I had 6 months to do that Vapiano thing, I don't think it would have turned out that well. So sometimes I like having deadlines, but if you see me doing it, I'll be effing and jeffing about it. But secretly, I do love it. So, yeah, from anywhere from a year to 2 days or 5 minutes, I love everything. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
do you mean definitely look good? Wait, my lighting is pouring. Wait, I gotta be black. Nah, one more.
Everybody garnish. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
I love your song.
want me to just talk into it? I might do Hannah Montana. I got the best of both worlds. Da-na-na-na-na. I'm not singing. Hello? Hello? So, really close?
Not really, really close.
So, like, this is too close,
It's a bit too close, yeah.
but this is fine?
No, a bit closer.
Like this?
Sure,
Yeah?
you want me in the middle?
Well, we were just trying to decide.
Yeah. We've got to balance the testosterone, that's why. The testosterone.
No, but I don't know what looks, I don't know. How do people usually sit? I'm hosting.
Right, you can stand up.
What's your best side when taking photos? Yeah, do you have here? What's your best side?
Just speak into this. Hello, hello. It's all good? Yeah.
Yeah, do I have a ticket?
Shall I get out of the way?
Should we both sit here?
Yeah, that's what I was about to suggest.
Yeah. Can you take a picture? Yeah, but not too much like interview kind of. Yeah. No, but then I feel like not too much like examiner.
Do you want to, how do we make it so we're all together?
Yeah. Should I try? Oh, look at that. That's
How does it look from a distance? From a distance. Oh yeah, it looks good, it looks good.
We just start talking from the outside and we just come in. I do think we should just stick to a semi-circle.
It's funny if we start walking around, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm like, bitch, I'm Kanye. Okay. You guys taking a picture?
What? Oh, sorry, who's taking a picture? Sorry. Oh, it's a video?
Oh, it's a video.
Okay. It's your video, yeah? Bonjour.
Well, can we take some pics? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Love the mic.
I'm just gonna say hi to people that talk. Okay, yeah. Do you want me to show you where the mirror is? I'm okay.
I found one downstairs. Is there one on this floor?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Okay, I'm done. Yeah, what? It's just down there on this level.
That sounds good. Yeah, keep it close if you can. If you don't speak too far. Like. From here is good. That's good. I think I'll be all right. Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name's Rawanne and I'll be your host for tonight. I am the Curator for Youth Programmes at the Photographers Gallery and it's an honour to be here. I hope everyone's been enjoying their night so far. Tonight I'll be chatting with Nico and Zaineb about their amazing and incredible work and linking it to the exhibition Capturing Moments. Before I let them introduce themselves, I thought I'd give you a little intro into how I know Nico and how I know Zaineb. I first met Nico, I think it was 2 years ago now. Was it 2? Was it 1?
Was it 2? It was about a year and a half, innit? No,
Year and a half, we're being precise. Year and a half ago at a exhibition opening called Black Boy Joy at Photo Fusion in Brixton. Nico was a bit wobbly, so I don't know if he remembers all of it, but I saw his work and I was just like, this guy's work is incredible, who is this? And yeah, we followed each other on Instagram and it's been that since.
Connected Photographers Gallery and all that?
Yeah. And Zaineb is our she works in our bookshop. And I remember when someone told me there was someone that was POC in the bookshop, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go down and say hi. And since then, we've been really good friends. But yeah, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Okay, hi guys, I'm Zaineb Abelque. I'm a photographer, creative, and a co-founder of a community club. My photography is really centered around just like observation. I'm really into the idea of voyeurism and being a fly on a wall. Whether it's commercial work or whether it's documentary photography, I always kind of just strive to shoot things candidly. I'm really into the idea of just creating an image with what we can see with the naked eye rather than fabricating a lot. And I think that's very similar to Nico.
Yeah, so I'm Nico. Hi, everyone. I'm a photographer from South East London, just like Zaineb. I'm also a lecturer at Ravensbourne and LCC. I do that part-time. And my primary focus is also the kind of documentary photography that Zaineb was talking about.
The first thing I kind of wanted to get into was, like you both have said, you're from South London. How has that kind of impacted your work, and how have those like communities and those bonds that you make been reflected within your work?
It's part of our DNA, isn't it? I mean, we was born and raised in South London. It's completely influenced our creative development in that way. I mean, it's who you are. And that's why I think, for me, I'm so invested in the area because of the projects I'm working on and what I continue to work on at the moment. I know it's the same for you.
Are all your projects in South London?
At the moment, yeah, I'm working on it. Well,
there's this one.
Yeah, so one of the main projects called South of the River, I call it South of the River, it's gained a bit of recognition. It's about, well, back in 2020, basically, I kind of figured I've got this local perspective because I'm from the area, I grew up in the area, and I thought I need to convey that in my work in order to convey my identity as a photographer, because it's important for me to show people what I care about through my photography. And I kind of figured I need to be celebrating these people in a way that feels honest, and it kind of influenced how I approach people, how I connect with people on the street, the way I build relationships for the project and stuff like that. I know we're limited on time, so I don't want to talk too much. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think South London is just one of those places where it's home, and it just like, it festers a lot of communities and characters and personalities, and it's one of those like whole encompassing kind of places in London where, like, in school I was with all sorts of kind of people doing all sorts of kind of things and activities and sports, and I think coming from South London is just one of those things that just becomes sort of your personality trait. It allows you to be curious because you've got so many interesting things around you, and South London has been like so personal, because my first personal project was documenting the Muslim community in Burgess Park. But yeah, I feel like South London is just one of those places where when you live within it, there's so much opportunities, but that's also a process that you have to go through. Like, realizing that you come from such a rich background is also a process, and I feel like photography is a tool to help us kind of realize that and then also portray that and give that back to our audiences and our fellow peers. So the image on the board is an image of a woman just sitting down after she's prayed in Burgess Park, which is kind of the park that kind of links Old Kent Road, Bermondsey, Peckham, Camberwell, and it's been like the center of most of my life and my activities.
Would you say a lot of your work focuses on like nature? Because I know, I mean, it would be great if you could talk about your initiative and like how South London means so much to you, but you as a person are really connected with nature and try to get out of South London. Like, how has that connection been made?
Yeah, I just think nature's just one of those things that's free and you don't realize it. But when you do, you find yourself in it all the time. And with the communities I'm from, there's a lot of privacy and there's a lot of, it's very personal. You know, when you're from South London, there's a lot of families and you're in people's homes and you'll go into halls and there's a lot of like behind closed doors things happening. Nature was the first place that offered me a space to document everyone, because finding my whole community in a park praying gave me no walls or doors to get through. It just meant I could just walk around and then again, like, be that fly on the wall. So the park and nature just, like, gave me the space to kind of just document it. Because if I had gone and done this project in a mosque, it would be a very different story.
Yeah.
Just because respect and privacy and people don't want themselves documented.
And I think that brings me on to, like, we're here to talk about capturing the moment as an exhibition, but kind of as photographers and as people who have such intimate relationships with the person that you're taking a picture of, what does, like, capturing the moment mean to you both?
It depends on your project, really. A street photographer who strictly works in that way would try to capture an unfiltered, undisturbed moment. But for me, documenting South East London, because I'm part of the community, I want to convey that connection. So it's very much about connecting with the people I meet on the street, especially if it's chance encounter moments. It's about showing that it's a collaboration. I want to give people a sense of agency, a sense of ownership, that they're being photographed. I don't want to just take moments. It needs to feel like a collaboration, especially because I'm from the community.
And I love, like, I think it really reflects in your work that they're looking at you like they know you, like you're riding your bike down the same street every day. They know you, the guy with the big backpack on. And I just think that's such a special thing. Like, it's not just a moment, it's a reoccurring, like, that happens every day through your life being in South London. And how about you, Zaineb?
I feel like the thing around capturing a moment and documentary photography is that it comes across as something that's very second nature and something that's very easy. But like the first process in which you capture a moment is realizing that that is a moment. I feel like in terms of like both the things that we document, you kind of have to realize that the mundane around you is beautiful. And like linking it to paintings, like there had to be someone who just looked at landscape and realized this landscape is worthy of painting, or this face is worthy of painting, or this bowl of fruit is worthy of painting. And I feel like with both of our works, there's a process in which you realize South London is beautiful. And like, obviously, from anything that we're connected to and everywhere we're from is beautiful, but the process in capturing a moment is a process of like stepping outside for half a second and realizing, oh, this is important and this is justifiable to take a photo. And then once you do take that photo and once you do capture that moment, there's also a process after that where you kind of keep looking back at it. And then you've kind of like realized that you've taken a snapshot of a memory or a conversation or of a feeling. And I feel like capturing a moment is all about just capturing a thought and like packaging something for yourself. But then also it's just a strong tool to also show the person back what that was. Like, I feel like it's really important when you take a portrait of someone or you take an image of something happening and you go back to the person and you go, look at this. And they're like, wow, like I didn't think of that. It looks so much better than I expected. Like, this is a photo of my dad holding all of our prayer mats, and each prayer mat is me and my siblings, and we've had it our whole lives. And I went back and I showed my mum the photo, and she's like, oh, our prayer mats look so nice. And it's like, it's just so interesting once you repackage reality and you give it to someone, their perspective changes.
Yeah, and I think, Nico, like, within your work, you kind of give prints back to people, right? Like, you do something that's similar. Yeah,
it's really important. Because I never used to do that. I started out with the whole street photography thing where I would just snatch moments. And I'm not trying to, talk bad about street photography, but when you're creating work like this, it's so important to give back more beyond the act of taking the photo. So you need to take their details. You need to make sure you're giving them a print, or you're definitely giving them the digital file. But giving them prints and stuff like that is just going the extra mile, and it's a beautiful thing, especially when they don't expect it. Because there's people that don't even expect you I've come across people, they don't even expect you to give them back a file. Like, they don't even get back in touch because they're like, oh, he probably won't speak to me again. But when you do, you can see that it goes a long way for a lot of people. So it's incredibly important.
Yeah, and Zaineb, I kind of wanted to ask about the things you capture are so intimate, and you know you're both within the communities that you're taking photos of. Do you think that's like that contributes to how your images come out? Like you know you capture the Muslim community so much. Is that something that's like really big for you to kind of stay respectful and like because you're within it? Like if you're an outsider, do you think it would be different and how your images would turn out?
I think it's more so just about perception. I think anyone can capture whatever they want.
Yeah.
And seeing something and feeling something is justified.
But do you think they trust you more because you're within the community?
I think it's less about trust, it's more about it being real.
Yeah.
It's like, why would I capture just, I'm sure a random man looking cool is good enough, but why would I just capture someone if I don't feel a connection with them? And I feel like outside of like my documentary of like South London and Morocco, my perspective is more so that I'm thinking about my audience, and I would love for a younger girl to see an image and realize that she sees this all the time and that it's actually really pretty. Like the image above, I feel like Morocco just has so many like scattered broken cars and broken bikes and just abandoned garages, and it's just something that I would walk past all the time.
Yeah.
And then when I had taken a photo of it, I just realized that it's such a trope of being from Casablanca. And the reason why I had released the photo and exhibited it is because it's in hopes of someone from my community seeing it and seeing something that is so mundane and their day-to-day up there.
Yeah. Do you think it was different being there and like, you know, building the relationships with people in Morocco?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. How like what's kind of the difference with like, you know, your work in South London and your work over there?
I think my work in Morocco is personally, it's part of a longer journey of like realizing what it is that I want to create and what I am capturing.
Yeah.
Whereas South London, it's like, because it's in the Western world, things are really apparent to me. Even this image up here, this is my great uncle and the last standing man of our village. And this was an image that I just took because I was like, why not? But then it's in the process of looking back and realizing his importance to us and his importance to our village that I was like, this is actually, from a documentary perspective, this is actually like important to release and show.
Yeah.
But I think it all just comes from like how we feel in relation to like creating work and how it makes us feel after the moment is captured.
And Nico, do you feel like if you know, I think I asked you to come West London with me and take pictures there, and he was like, well, you know, I only work in the South. Do you think it's like really different if you were to go in other parts of London?
Well, no, I mean, I'm quite biased, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, I love my South East London, but I know there's spots in West London that are just as vibrant, just as authentic, just like East London. I love East London as well. You know, places in Newham and Tower Hamlets and Hackney are very similar to South East London.
But do you think your connection with the people you're photographing would then be different because perhaps that's not a place that you... Yeah.
Because South East London, as anyone here who's from South East London knows, it's quite isolated compared to the rest of London, mainly because of the public transport. We don't have any tubes that go deep into South East London, which that could all change at some point, by the way. And that'll be interesting when it does, especially to document. But no, there's definitely a certain vibe, a certain energy in South East London because of that. There's certain areas, I don't know if anyone's been Thamesmead, Woolwich, it's all quite isolated there. And they, even in those areas, it's like they've got their own thing that's different to South East London in general. But yeah, you don't really get that anywhere else in London, mainly because of the transport links. And it's always kind of been like that, but it's going to slowly change very soon, I'm sure.
And going forward, how do you guys both see your practices? What moments are you looking to capture? You know, how do you see your body of work expanding and you as a person?
I suppose we both have dreams, innit? Books, exhibition. No, just keep doing our thing. I think the beautiful thing about this stuff is highly personal. So we'll be doing this forever because it's us, it's authentic, it keeps us going. I think in order to keep creating work like this, it has to be personal. That's what keeps, in terms of longevity, that's what you need. You need to find what it is that makes it personal, what makes it unique to you. because all of our experiences in this world is unique. No one has the same experience as you in this life, you know? If you can find a way to channel that and to make personal work, then you'll be, hopefully you'll be working on that forever, for the rest of your life.
Zaineb?
Yeah, I think creating art and like taking images has always just like been an itch that I've always wanted to scratch. But I think as we grow up and as we have more conversations and life experiences, like the means in which you capture and the means in which you like want to present it back into the world change. But it's definitely something that I want to keep doing, and like also figuring out what your theme is, or what conversations you want to hold with these images, and also the process in which you realize that like images have power to bring people together. And I think that also just like transcends it all into another place. But constantly want to keep taking photos. And
your plans to keep capturing South, or you plan to go back home?
So I'm doing a project now which has been going on for about like 3 years, and it's just in the process of continuously going back home and documenting my village. But also building the relationship with those people, and realizing that there's not a lot of imagery taken in North Africa, and that the camera has been really weaponized for North Africans, and holding the conversation around how like privacy stops us from actually communicating and having certain conversations because things are just not documented. And
how do you build those connections and like how?
It has to be authentic.
Yeah,
it's like the same way like you'll sit with your uncle and have a coffee. It's like I'm gonna sit with my uncle another time, have a coffee, and I'm like, can I get your portrait before we leave?
Yeah.
There's definitely intentions behind it, but it has to be real. Like you have to. Yeah. It's not even a second thought. It's like a fifth thought that comes like I've been going to Morocco my whole life, and I've been taking photos for 3 years, and only last year I realized that I was taking photos. Yeah. And that now I'm gonna purposefully do it and try to build a story from it all.
Nice. And Nico, you've got your exhibition opening up.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to tell us a bit about it? Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, next Thursday, Friday, sorry, is the start of my first solo exhibition. I'll be showcasing some work from East London, but also a lot of work from South East London. Some of my work so far. Really excited about that. First solo exhibition,
Where
so
is
it's
it?
exciting. It's going to be in central London, just off Oxford Street.
Nice. And were you kind of involved in the creation and picking which images you wanted?
For sure.
So do you feel like it's a reflection of the moments that you thought were really special?
Yeah, it's hard collaborating with a curator when it's your personal work. I kind of discovered that, and it's just your work being shown. But it's really exciting. I'm really excited to show the work.
Do you have a favourite image in the exhibition, or like a story?
I think, so I've collaborated with a guy from East London, a good friend of mine called Dudley. He created a short documentary about my practice and my approach, and he captured the way I approach people in the street, and the way he did it, he really kind of sees me, like he understands what I'm trying to do. So for me, that was very moving, especially when I saw it afterwards. So I can't wait to see people's reaction when they see the video at the exhibition. Obviously seeing the large prints. I haven't seen them yet though, so.
Oh, so is it going to be your first time on Thursday as well? Or
I'll probably, a few days before,
Okay,
I'll probably see the large prints and that.
Nice.
But yeah, it's exciting.
Great. I think we can open up for some questions. Don't know if anyone has any. Yeah, I think is there a mic? Yeah. Oh, there's a mic.
For Zaineb, what inspired you to just start photographing and taking in the moment of Morocco as a whole and your life as a whole?
I think it's just realizing that like it can just go away one day, that people just die, cities get renovated, and I think with like being a child of diaspora, everything is so temperamental, and also just being at the age of realizing that I'm now an adult and now I have relatives who I can't even hold conversations with because our parents spoke for us, and like realizing that things have to be restarted and things have to be like you have to purposefully put energy into relationships and spaces if something is truly your home. And in the process of that, like a camera has just been my tool to just allow myself to just walk the streets and observe. I feel like sometimes you feel like an idiot just like being a people watcher, or there's a moment of comfort when you just feel like there's no real purpose of doing anything, and I feel like a camera for me is the reason why I can just wander around a city and like figure things out, or just sit at a cafe, or just look at people, because the camera is my second language, and it can open up a lot of conversations for me.
This is for Nico, by the way, and I do want to talk about this picture. I really like this picture, but could you take me through your thought process? Do you usually realize things when you take the pictures, or actually you saw the composition of what this shot could be before you took it? Because looking at it, I can actually see that a lot of the colors really do complement each other, with like the scarf and the little rug in the corner, and then also like the bow that's also purple, and basically how it transitions from like yellow flowers to like really warm shelves and the chest, and also, yeah, take me through your thought process with that. Did you see it?
This portrait in particular?
Yeah.
This is my mum.
That's awesome.
And I love her to pieces. And as you can see, she's a very colourful woman. And her kitchen is incredibly colourful, incredibly unique. I mean, you don't often really see kitchens like that, do you? Especially this day and age. So I didn't really think twice. I just took the picture. She's often standing like that. Well, I hope she still stands like that. I haven't been home in a while. My sister's over there. Does Mum still stand in the kitchen like that? No, my mum's, you can see, she's a unique woman, and I just immediately took the picture. It's just the way the light was coming in through the window. I often work like that. I often work with natural light. I don't really use any kind of external lights. Sometimes I might use lights coming from external sources in the street or whatever, but it's usually just natural light. I feel like that doesn't really help, doesn't really answer your question, because this portrait doesn't really help. It's my mum, so it was quite easy.
Do you want me to flick through another one?
Yeah, maybe.
Shall I keep going?
It's just, it's natural light is just a big part of my process. I do use this app, by the way. There's an app that tells you where the sun's going to be during the day, and it's incredibly helpful. Do people use similar apps? If you're into this type of stuff using natural light, you need to be checking out some of these apps. They're amazing. So I know exactly where the sun's going to be. Sometimes I pre-plan it the day before. Obviously, I love golden hour. I love early morning light. So there's a lot of planning now. I don't want to waste my time, you know. I want the light to be exactly how I envision it, you know. So, yeah. Does that help? Does that answer?
Oh, hi. I just wondered, do you ever use photos where you haven't got the permission of the subject?
No.
Do we ever use photos?
Do you ever take or use them as in exhibit or show them?
Am I looking at the right person? Sorry, I was looking. Sorry, say that again?
Do you ever take and use photos as in show them to other people if you haven't got permission of the subject?
Like Instagram?
Just wherever you put your photos. So I assume that the ones we've seen so far, you've got the permission of the subject.
I don't often ask for their permission to...
You don't?
I do tell them, though, after I've taken a portrait, I'm like, it could end up on Instagram, by the way, but it depends how it comes out, because it's all film photography, so I won't know how it looks until I get it processed, obviously. But I usually tell them, I'm like, it might end up on Instagram. I don't usually ask. I should probably ask, but...
Okay.
But that's what we do. We have to share our... Instagram is the place where we share our work, so...
Well, I guess as a follow-up, if I may, yeah. How do you feel about that? The kind of the role of the permission of the subject, is it necessary? Is it something that you just can't expect these days, given that there's cameras everywhere?
I think there's already, I mean, the type of work we do, we've already built up a connection, and there's already a form of consent. You know, they know what we're about. We talk about our work. Our intentions are pure. So, and they probably know, they're not stupid, they probably know that the work might end up somewhere, considering we're photographers, so it doesn't really have to be discussed. And obviously if they've got an issue with it, they can easily message one of us, tell us they're not really happy or comfortable with the photo being in a certain place, and then obviously we'll take it down. But yeah, you already build those relationships and make those connections, and like, there's a form of consent there already in place, you know? There's an etiquette.
Yeah, I think for photographers who just photograph everyday life stuff, that's a different art form, like street photography and documentary photography, where you're kind of just waiting for the perfect moments in life to just happen, or you're just taking a photo of someone. I think that's a different genre of the photography that we capture. And I agree, it's all consented already because there's already that relationship with the subject. So they already know, they already gauge what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's a couple of questions actually, but one was to Nico, which was to what do you like, how much direction do you give like your subject when you come to photograph, and do they just choose where they are, you just see it? And the second question was to both of you, which was like, do you always use cameras or do you use your phones as well when you're taking your pictures?
I'll quickly answer mine. No, I like to capture people in their environment, so there's usually not that much. I don't like to kind of tamper with it or direct people too much. There are sometimes moments where I'm like, actually, can you just sit there, just see what that looks like? But for the most part, they're in their environment. I do a bit of pre-planning, so I like where they are, obviously. I like how the light is, and I just try to replicate that, to represent it in the most authentic way, basically. In terms of my phone, what do you mean? Just taking pictures with our phone?
Using a camera, using the phone camera?
Yeah, so with my process, because I've been going back home for a couple years and taking images, it actually came from me taking images on my iPhone. Just because an iPhone is something that's not invasive and they think is quite cool. So everyone is kind of like, take a photo of me on your iPhone. So my next exhibition has been like sparked through taking photos on an iPhone and then purposefully going back to then take it on film. But also I feel like going back home in Morocco, it's just more trusted with an iPhone. I feel like you can't be too sure with film and you never know what's gonna happen in a moment, so you might lose that shot. But I do take everyday live photos on iPhones, and I feel like iPhone photos are my mood boards, and they kind of like, it's like a writer would like constantly draft papers. I feel like I do that with my phone. And then when I know what I want, I go in and take it with my film camera.
Nico, you use mainly medium format film, right?
Yeah, it's hard to kind of shoot with your phone when you're so used to taking medium format film shots, because
they don't look the same.
But, you know, smartphones, we all know they're very capable now, and I know professional photographers obviously use them for professional shoots, and you can get some amazing imagery from your smartphone, and there will be a time where smartphones will completely take over everything. Well, they kind of have anyway, but yeah, it's hard to shoot with your smartphone when you're taking photos with a medium format film camera, if you're familiar with a medium format camera.
I think we have time for one more question.
Thanks.
So this is for both of you. For your own personal growth, what is the most rewarding part of documenting your family and the area you grew up in?
Ask that last bit again,
What's the most rewarding part of documenting your family and the area that you grew up in?
Well, we're representing we're showing what we care about, right? What we love. As we all know, things change super fast, and I see that, especially in South East London, how fast things change. And photography has that power to immortalize moments. And for us, it's our families, it's our friends, it's our communities. That's the special thing about this type of documentary photography, because unfortunately things change so bloody fast. But photography allows you to kind of treasure all the things you care about, basically, right?
Yeah, and just realizing that you made someone else feel how you felt when you were younger and you saw yourself. I know it's really cheesy and cliche, but I feel like not too long ago we all were on Pinterest one day and looking through magazines and looking at books, and it's all, I feel like for me the rewarding thing is just knowing that someone else is going to look at it and have that same feeling, and maybe that's going to spark a thought, it's going to spark an idea, maybe it's just going to give them confidence, or maybe it's just going to make them feel a little bit like home. But the reward is definitely the feelings and the reactions.
Great. Well, thank you to everyone. Thank you, Nico, and thank you, Zaineb. It's been great speaking to you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the late.
Thank you.
Check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Does that sound loud enough? I keep it closer. Is that better?
This is okay as well? Oh my gosh, okay, a bit closer, like that.
I guess what sounds uncomfortable for us is the ideal.
Yeah, and then one's a bit kind of encumbered with slide thingies.
Yeah,
and
that's a lot
that's
for
a
you.
bit of a shame, isn't it? Never mind. No, it's okay because the first bit is just quiet. We're just going through 12 slides without saying anything, and then after that, I'll just whatever. Yeah. So if my arm goes down, just do signal.
Yeah.
I'll try and you just leave it on.
Yeah, just I'll do all the rest. I'll mute them.
Is that okay? Did you keep it in a bit wide for me?
It's just really got this big wide shot.
And you like it like that?
Once people sit in, it's like kind of,
that row, like if you add an extra.
Oh, like on this side?
Yeah, if we added an extra. That, yeah. I think that's fine.
Yeah, cool.
Is that okay? Do you think it's just for in the room?
No, I don't know what you mean. It's always like a weird.
Benefits,
yeah, and to be honest, it's like what the people in the room on the side.
Yeah.
Or experimenting on the room.
Right, I think it's time for us to start. So hello everyone, my name's Jorella Andrews, and...
Hello, I'm Mandy Sayegh. Thank you for coming on the evening, lovely summer evening.
And it's a great pleasure to be having this time to chat with you this evening. What we're going to do is we're going to be addressing that issue around capturing the moment, and we'll be talking about the way in which it either might or might not resonate in Mandy's practice. We're going to start by just going through around 12 images, just slowly, without saying anything, just so you get a bit of a better sense of her practice. But before starting, I just wanted to say a couple of things about that term, capture, because there are two kind of inflections to that. One is the really obvious one that we're all very familiar with, this idea of capture as taking possession or taking control of, quite a violent term. But there's also this other meaning that has to do with recording accurately in words or pictures. And what's interesting here, of course, is that there's that whole issue about what does it mean to capture something with precision when we're thinking in visual terms. There's an example of that I think is quite good in the current exhibition, the Capturing the Moment exhibition. I'm thinking about that part in the exhibition where Francis Bacon's portraits are being discussed. And there's that language of distortion that he uses as a way of truth-telling. And he talks about the fact that for him, accuracy in portraiture isn't a matter of the kind of prosaic appearance, but it's a matter of somehow being able to pick up what he calls the pulsations in a person, those kinds of energies that are very visceral, but are also very much to do with emotion and mind. So that's just one example of a kind of precision that might really go against the grain of the normal ways that we understand that term. So, you know, another kind of inflection of what capturing might mean. But anyway, we'll talk about all of this in detail in a minute, but I'm just going to start by just going through about 12 images that you've selected, Mandy, and then we'll start talking. Right, so we're going to address that question of what capturing the moment might mean in your work. And I'm really intrigued to hear your perspectives, because you often describe your work much more in terms of a deconstructive practice. And you've also spoken very, very interestingly, I think, about your work being anti-narrative. And also you remarked that, you know, being too fixed is neurosis. So in a way, I'd like to just like hand over to you and hear what you have to say, sort of using this initial image as a point of reference. What is this image, by the way?
It's called neck grid ocular, because there's kind of fragments of parts of the cell of the eye and just thinking about ways of looking and sedimentation.
Okay.
But thinking about your question, thank you. We can start from many directions, and I know all these talks are occasioning the show, capturing the moment. And at first I was like, I have nothing to say about photography and painting. Even though I use photography, I use so much other stuff there that I wouldn't put it in a hierarchy of things. So there's no, direct relational thing in that. There are fragments in there that initially started from photography, but there's so many fragments. And when I think about the practice, it's ways of how to deal with these fragments and bind them together, like to form and reassemble into a new body. So the easiest way I identify is not as a painter, a sculptor or a video maker or anything, as a collagist, because you can apply that to anything. Teenagers do it in their bedrooms and they pick little bits and then make these provisional selves and they switch stuff out. They're like, oh no, I don't like that anymore, whether it's that kind of music or whatever. So it's just a very real, relatable way of dealing with picking, selecting, capturing, and trying provisionally to bind these things together of a self where you feel like you're unsure of. And I think that can apply to psychical states, precarious states, thinking about those little corner rooms in prisons and capturing in that way, just like for yourself and as a survival thing, as an emotional thing, and like as a processual kind of like technical thing in terms of making.
Because one of the obvious things about your work at first instance, and especially if you look at them from a distance, is that play with the grid, of course. But here there's that sense that the grid is fulfilling so many different functions. On the one hand, as you said, there's that sense of trying to somehow catch a number of, or a great number, too many, in a sense, fragments and images that somehow need to be processed in some way and at some time. There's also, I think, a sense, we were talking earlier about how, of course, the grid can also speak a lot around notions of veiling. And there's a sense with these works visually, I think, that there's that play between sort of revelation and concealment, which I think is really important because a lot of the fragments that you deal with are actually dealing with really, really difficult material, aren't they? So, yeah, and I don't know if you wanted to say a little bit more about this, the draw of the grid and how you work with that.
Yeah, I think again, like there's this point in the studio, if I go through process, because I think the easiest way when I'm talking about concepts is actually to be more honest and talk about the process, because then you can approach those themes through what you actually do with color and stuff. So there's this point in the studio where like everything feels like shit, I feel like I'm a piece of shit, and everything is rubbish, and that this is all a big delusion, which it is. And then that's the part that feels like there's a big mess of vomit. That's all these little things in the studio, all these collected things that I feel are important to me. And they need to somehow congeal and like form a body that's real and legitimate. So I'm always thinking about legibility and legitimacy. And what's the most legitimate thing more than painting? And that's the kind of currency or the signifier of like a bourgeois, visual, high art kind of culture.
Yeah.
So the grid is a way, not only is it a motif of like abstraction, modern art, but it's literally like a way of holding things together, and from far it looks like it makes sense and it knows itself, it knows what it is. Yeah. But upon like forensic inspection, it has all those like painful bits or messy, abject parts. So it can be both at the same time. And then once it receives this kind of gestalt wholeness, I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like that can, like my too muchness can stop at that point.
Yeah. Where do these fragments and images come from?
They come from like this impulse of like just hoarding everything, in a way that I didn't fully understand, because it wasn't like very particular, conscious kind of things I do. They were very impulsive things where I just couldn't throw away anything. Yeah. So then I'd let things build up in a studio, let them be in my periphery, and kind of deal with them quite like intuitively. Yeah, so even like can't throw away rags because certain staining like is so beautiful I can't throw it away.
So it'll be a mixture of personal materials,
Yeah, totally.
cultural materials, stuff from newspapers,
Yeah.
things
Words.
left over from the processes of
Yeah.
making, all of that, and then these just kind of start to gather together. I mean, I love the image of you kind of literally making by sort of crawling over
Yeah.
your works. You
Yeah.
make your works horizontally, don't
Oh
you,
yeah,
on the
always.
ground?
I think like making a mess is more like unconscious because you don't have to judge yourself. If you're making a mess, there's no assumption for a mess. It can just be. And then like the next day you can add to that mess and it sediments.
Yeah. So one of the things, you included a slide, if I just move it on, that I was quite intrigued by. I haven't really heard you speak about it, but you included this, and I wondered if you could say a little bit about that slide and its meaningfulness for you, really.
Yeah, I was working, doing social work with nonverbal autistic young people, and this is the process kind of page they gave us to like how to kind of draw people into language. So like for nonverbal that do have their faculties that they can speak, you have to find their kind of like special objects or their special interests, and you kind of have to start with a real object, maybe find other similar objects, a photo of an object, and slowly go into this process of abstraction that goes into language. And if you don't keep it up, it goes backwards. They like stop talking. But then it kind of made me think, talking the other day to my friend, about the Kasuth chair. 1 in 3 chairs, and it's work where it just has a real chair, black and white picture of a chair, and a descriptor of the chair. And that was like, conceptual art in the 60s. And this is not that. This is like spectrum thinking and thinking about integration and thinking about interpolation, how access works. So the way I process the works or the kind of like the thing or the pain or whatever, it has to be the real thing. I have to have the real thing with me. And it has to go through a process. I can't make that jump into poesis or poetics. I don't do very good with words. So it has to be processed in a way, or digested, as someone said, I think very literally. So I think this idea of like spectrum thinking and processing material in the same way, that after a level of processing, it becomes so dense, it forms its own abstraction. So it has an opacity because it becomes so illegible, but if you forensically inspect it, you can kind of get to where the pain bits are.
Yeah, thank you. The next image that I just wanted to move on to is this one. Again, could you say a little bit about your inclusion of this and how it might relate to that painting we were looking at?
So what you're looking at is an image of the Mexican-US border wall, and that image has been silkscreened and embedded into the painting previously. But just thinking about, the show capturing the image and like what these images mean and how they read. Like you were saying, Jorella, that you thought this was like a fashion editorial spread.
Yeah.
And I think that's the nature of everything we kind of see now that's coming to us. Like what is real? Like where is there's
Yeah, because I was comparing these two, the images from the Berlin Wall coming down. And there's just something about this. I couldn't believe that this was actually taken on site. It looked so kind of manipulated and so sort of Instagrammable, the way that people seem to be very consciously kind of posing on that wall. And I think that speaks a lot to the kind of visual scenarios that we're living in at the moment. And I think something at your work speaks to an awful lot in terms of these, not just the ways in which we process information, but the ways in which we're also kind of almost like processing ourselves as image within these broader contexts.
Or how we lose ourselves as well. Like how everything merges into everything, and then eventually we lose this, original kind of context. Or is this any more real than the painting? Like, is this any more real than anything? Because of the range of associations we have with it. So. What does this stand for anyway? Because the next if we can go to the next slide, I think the diesel advert. One more back,
This one here,
this could be the Berlin Wall, this could be the Jerusalem, Israel Wall. But, how things are contextualized and put into, and I use this for a work as well. So the process that would go through this would turn to a silk screen. I would silk screen this into a painting. You'd lose some information there, but some bits would stick. And then it will get repeated in a tessellating pattern, and then you kind of, again, it's thinking about how this too muchness of information gets lost and how it reassembles in its own logic to form, you know, new mutated meanings of things.
Yeah, and I think with your gridded images and that sort of surface that from a distance looks so ephemeral, it looks very sort of diffused, etc. It also, again, makes me think about that additional problematic that we have with the processing of information, so much of it, you know, not actually being visible or legible anymore, but it's only readable machinically, you know, and I think, again, that process, that engagement that you have with these images, it just seems to be in a very material way, sort of offering a kind of resistance, I think, to some of that, and encouraging a particular way of literally, in your case, getting on your hands and knees and getting into this image world that's constantly kind of shaping us and forming us. There's a real sense, in a way, isn't there, of perception and processing having to involve both sort of seeing and making at the same time. And we talked a lot about the material nature of that. One of the things that I always really like, and I suspect that you probably resonated with, is that idea of a kind of material thinking.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, does
like
that make
I always
sense?
say, I have a Lego brain, so I have to think through the material.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing until the material tells me what it's doing.
Yeah.
And I have to just see it through the process.
Yeah.
And that applies to language as well, and like even knowing what I'm doing. So, you know, in the beginning of the slides, there was this installation that had like this roll of latex. Maybe we could go back to it. Sorry to put you through this.
No, tell me when to stop.
We could have gone the other way, but
Was it the very first one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is a nice reminder of what
Yeah,
we've
this
been looking
one.
at. This one, okay.
So this was in Beirut in 2019, and then it didn't open because the revolution had ring of fire around the museum. But this was a rolled up piece of the floor, and I kind of like that it looked like a kind of dead body, and I use that as analogy. I don't know how much of an analogy it is because it's quite literal. Like you can't get to the work you can't get to the poetics unless you step over the body. Like we can't really have a conversation. I don't want to have a conversation about poetics unless you're kind of dealing with the imminence and the kind of urgency of people in states of duress and the body and like what it means and the implications of using our body in these kind of conversations and things.
Yeah.
So bringing in that, you know, we're talking about the grid having that duality of letting things be quite ephemeral, but having both present at the same time, resonating with each other. Like it's a gallery, it's a museum, which are like elevated, privileged places, but it's given me space that I can talk about things I can't normally talk about, being where I'm from, because there are dangers.
Yeah. Because you're from.
Yeah.
The thing that, again, is really interesting about this image, and also this one here, is, I mean, at first sight, you know, I think, is this your studio or is this an installation?
That's such a nice compliment, because that's how this show, it's a show installation, was conceived. Like the curator, the very intuitive curator, Melanie from Beton Salon, she's now gone to Beaux-Arts, but she came to the studio and we were both going through stuff, and we didn't have any theoretical or conceptual conversation around the work. She was just very materially intuitive, and she's like, I want to get the sense of the studio in the gallery space. And like there was such a trust with the material and the belief that, you know, I could take care of it, that she just wanted me to kind of just somewhat recreate the feeling. So these are all kind of very dense latex tiles that are cured in the front yard. This took ages because I did this with one body myself. But the summer heat that year worked. And these are all kind of unstretched paintings. They're called white grounds before the grid goes on top. So everything's in a state of process that incomplete. And it kind of gives that aliveness.
Yeah. And it's kind of inviting the viewer or the participant into that space to, in a way, to do some of that work of viewing/making in a really interesting way. But one of the things, again, I think with your work that seems evident from these different images is that it's almost as if there is no ground. There's the ground, and then that's not the ground is underneath, and then there's another layer, and so
those
there's
are
that
called white
sense.
grounds, so like
yeah,
you know,
exactly. I know when we talked before, you said the white cube is not for you.
Yeah. The sage that shit.
Yeah, exactly. So that real sense of, it's almost magical to me how you manage to sort of, use the word capture, but that sense of your images is on the one hand, again, having that quality of a kind of lightness and an ephemerality, and at the same time, there is this, in a sense, no end to the depth that's in them.
There's no end.
It's an incredible paradox, I think. But for me, there's something really important about the work that you do, because I think it's a kind of work that we all need to be doing in the sense of really grappling with, taking a kind of responsibility, grappling with the image worlds that are just flying and floating around us. And the ones that we carry inside of us, we're all archives. And there's something I think about externalizing some of that and then going through that kind of arduous task of making sense of it. That seems to be a really important sort of cultural project for all of us in many ways.
And that was such a big word before when I was at school, the archive fever thing, and it was like, oh, brain numbing. But we all have camera rolls, you know, we all are processing information continuously. And like, for me, there's a fear that these fragments are being erased. So like, I have this kind of hysteria with that, and having to embed it into this holding, these holding devices, be that latex, be that the grid, be that spaces, be that like video. But the sad thing is, it's like, you know, the archive is always precarious, it's always like threatening to die. Like the latex is always dying the moment it comes out of the tree, so it combines something together well. It's quite a robust thing, but it's always kind of either going to a state of like brittleness or really squidginess, so it's always degrading. Like our memories, like every time you visit a memory, it mutates and becomes further away from it. It's always changing, it's always evolving, like, you know, identity being a processual thing and nothing being like sovereign. So it's about precarity, I think.
Yeah. Shall we open out? I just wondered whether there were any questions that you wanted to ask of Mandy, of her work, of her process at this stage.
Hello. I just wanted to ask, in some of your earlier works, you do a hand-drawn grid, and I just wanted to know what led you down the process of using screen printing more in your work in your more recent years.
Thank you. I think more and more I got invited to do bigger spaces, and I can't bear any space on the wall. So I had to find like a practical solution for that, and I couldn't hand paint 1 centimeter squares across the whole of a skin space. So for economy reasons. And then it got me thinking about reproduction, commodities, money, printing, painting is printing money, all those kind of very literal things. And then because you become like a machine, you can see the kind of thing more and more that you're doing, because you're doing it faster. You can see the kind of the organizing principles of your palette, of like the things that you always pick up on, or the fragments and how they're grouped together. You can see yourself after the fact quicker. So I kind of enjoy that. Thank you. Anyone? Any artist here?
Really like this piece that you've got here. You said the pieces are incomplete. Did you go back and retouch any of the work that you've kind of done in this piece here?
Yeah, good question, because I destroyed that bit one at the back. I didn't like it. But everything is like, it's like Transformers. So like I come to to the gallery or the space, and with all these broken, fragmented bits, which are the tiles, which are like, you know, all these are rolled in a FedEx roll. So and then I'll assemble it intuitively in space. And when it comes back in the FedEx roll, it's kind of like Christmas again, because like, oh, I got all these half-made works. But then I sometimes hate them because it's been a year since I've unrolled it. And a year has passed and I didn't like that palette, so I destroyed that. But normally what happens is I'll overlay stuff on it. It's very rare that I destroy something.
Okay. So how come you destroyed that piece? Right.
I couldn't bring it back to life. I tried.
Okay.
Yeah. It was too over processed, so then there wasn't any difference in the ground, if you know what I mean. Everything turned brown.
Okay, interesting you said that, just because I was like, you feel like you get lost in these pieces of work. Is that something that, I don't know, I guess, is that something that you go for, or is that something
I
that
really
just
think so. I
happens?
think it's a very important state, because when I'm making, I hate that I have to drink to get to that place, but I want to get to a place where I'm not scrutinizing any one material over the other. So I want to get to a place where I can't see. And what I mean by can't see is that I'm not giving meaning to what I'm seeing. I'm just seeing this merge of color. So I want the viewer, once I've reassembled it in space, to get a sense of like losing coordinates and not putting any hierarchy on any one place, whether it's the floor, whether it's on a wall, whether it's like objects hanging in space. So I think, yeah, that is an important point for me.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
There was another question, just quickly. So for you, are all of these pieces very much in this kind of conversation with each other?
Yeah.
That's, yeah, so there has to be, I liked what you said about, you know, this thing about getting lost, because I guess that's why you felt the whole thing had kind of closed up, and that sense of that interwoven space was no longer retrievable, it had just gone.
The thing with like Tetris or like a Rubik's Cube is you need one space to move everything around.
Yeah.
Otherwise there's no movement. And I think the danger with me is like I want everything so full that it kind of gets so full it dies.
Yeah.
So there needs to be some space somewhere.
Yeah. I think we've got room for one question, but I think that's really important. There's a tiny little bit about this notion of capture that I think in this world of everything being fluid, everything being in motion, that we do need to find those points that are, if not immobile, at least moving at a very different pace.
Yeah.
So that we can kind of have some sense of things maybe sort of organizing and making sense in relationship to them.
Anyone else?
I think did you have a question? Yeah.
I'm in the fortunate position of having come to know Mandy's work and having seen it over a period of months and years. And there were two things out of what you said that really I kind of half agree with, and I feel impelled just to explore a little bit. One is the words capture with precision, and the other is erasure of fragments. Because what I think about Mandy's work is that, you know, the human condition is so complicated, and particularly in this world that we live in, that I'm very often struck by things that I half remember or half see, or impressions that I half have. It's rarely a fully blown, complete picture. And so for me, what's remarkable about Mandy's work, amongst many other things, is that when she makes a net grid, she is like capturing elements of memory, of feelings, of color, that go to make up the human condition in all its complexity. And that depth of layering and the grid, which is a sort of formal construct, is incredibly important to recall something that for me, I mostly, in my brain, sometimes I can remember everything fully formed, but mostly I can't. And even if I can remember something fully formed, it's not about the very heart of the matter, because the heart of the matter is an abstract notion for me. So I'm talking obviously very personally. And then the other thing, which I wrote on my, here we go, erasure of fragments. And the erasure of fragments is a fascinating idea, but it's those fragments that go to make up the whole.
That's lovely.
Thank you,
Thank
Julia.
you very much. That's a lovely place, I think, to end. And I think again, this idea of a kind of visual understanding of precision that's there, which is able to capture and evoke those movements between what's there, what's not there, what's forgotten, what's remembered, what may come into
I
visibility.
do always describe the work as a part-to-whole relation, and I am not one thing, like I'm a sum of all the things I've ever loved, so I really like that you ended on that.
Yeah.
This part-to-whole thing.
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah.
Mandy, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jorella. Thank you, everyone.